Welcome to the bunker.
Preppers, survivalists, off-gridders, homesteaders, and the like. Welcome to Top's Bunker, a podcast for preppers. Email shtf@topsbunker.com, website topsbunker.com. Don't forget to check the show notes in your podcast player for a link to help support the show, valuable products and gear, and extra info on this episode. I want to thank y'all for joining us. We've got a great show for you. Tonight, we're talking about one of the biggest decisions a prepper survivalist can make, especially if you're an aspiring homesteader, choosing the right piece of land to purchase. Now, whether you're looking to start a small off-grid setup or build a full working homestead, or to simply move your family towards a more self-reliant lifestyle, real estate choices matter. The land you buy determines your water options, your food production, your security, your daily challenges, and your long-term success. To help us break down what really matters when buying property for preparedness, we've invited a special guest who knows this world inside and out. Christina Bowers, owner of Bowers Realty Group, is a real estate professional who's helped countless people find homes and land that fits their goals, their budget, and their overall survival plan. She's ranked within the top 500 real estate agents in Oklahoma City Metro and is on track to close over $7 million in sales this year. She understands soil, zoning, utilities, inspections, access, and all the hidden details that can make or break your homestead dreams. So if you're considering a move, planning for the future, or just want to understand what to look for in a property built for resilience and self-sufficiency, this episode is for you. So let's get started.
Well, all right, Top's Bunker, we have a very...
You don't have to act it. You don't have to act
all
it out.
right, hey,
3, 2, 1, go.
We got an 80s DJ here. All right, hip-hop to hippie. All right, well, so tonight we have Christina, who is a realtor in my home state, friend of mine, and she's a subject matter expert. She's very versed, and she's a realtor and a broker, and has done this for years now, where she helps people find, their forever homes or their new home. And she can specialize in homesteading, and that's kind of something that's in our wheelhouse that we talk about. And she's done this. She grew up as a homesteader, as a wee little lad, and she grew up and she's now homesteading. So she has a lot of experience with this on both ends of the spectrum. So I think she's going to be a wealth of knowledge, and she is going to help us out. And in the show notes, you're going to be able to find her contact information. So maybe she can help you out if you're in that journey.
Yeah. When it comes to preppers and survivalists and homesteaders, off-gridders, we're always in the back of our mind, if we haven't already, we're always looking for the buck out place. That could be, an acre of land away from other people, or, as secluded as possible, or where there are other people who are like-minded, and maybe to set up a cabin, maybe to set up a house, maybe to have your forever home. Maybe to have a homestead. But the problem is that most people, and this was including me before I took my journey into buying property, most of us don't have any clue on what the realities of it are and how to actually do it. We all think that we're just going to go get a loan, buy a land, we're going to have a house on it, and we're going to do all these cool things. And that's not how it works. It can be a very long and drawn out process. What I have told everybody throughout all these podcasts that we've done is get a realtor, get an expert, get somebody to help you, because there are pitfalls and things that will make you suffer, and you will spend more money than you think you had. We spent a lot of money, and we still had a realtor, just from doing all the trips. And there's so many different, each time we went out and looked at properties, we were talking about 6 to 8 hours worth of driving in a day, with hotel expenses and gas expenses, and going to all these different properties that didn't even work out. And we could have saved so much money and so much time if we had known certain things.
Yeah, you bring up a good point there that you really don't know what you don't know when it comes to this. And a realtor is a subject matter expert and it's going to be there to run the traps for you and they're going to know the things you don't know.
The one thing that I found out early on is that the realtor that you hire works for you. The realtor doesn't work for the seller. Realtor doesn't work for the bank. So they do everything for you. Use them as a tool. And that's why we have people like Christina coming on tonight. Christina, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you guys for inviting me on. So you are very right. Having the right realtor in your corner can make a world of difference because some realtors just aren't experienced with doing land or like a major project like a homestead, and you want to make sure that you have like the right person in your corner. So that is for sure. I would also find somebody that you are really similar, like in your beliefs as well, just in case. That way, you feel better about who you're giving your money to, because whether you're paying your agent or the seller is paying your agent, which is majority of the time agents can get the seller to pay for the listing agent and the buyer's agent. We can negotiate our commission in your offer to the property, and ask for that seller to pay for our commission, because as buyers you're spending, oh my goodness, you're spending so much money just in investigations and inspections. That's something really important that you want to make sure that you do, because you only have a very specific time frame in which you can get these inspections done per your contract. And if you have an agent that does not know that contract from front to back, and you go one day over the inspection period without either saying, hey, you know what, we found all these things, we either want you to fix them, or hey, we found all these things, we don't want to purchase this anymore, we want to back out, that's your opportunity to do that. And if you're one day past that or 1 hour past that, then you can get stuck buying the property as is, and you're going to have to find another way out of the contract, which either means losing your earnest money, you can get sued from the seller for non-performance, or you can just walk away entirely and hope the seller just lets you go. Sometimes that happens, but having a good agent in your corner is super important. Especially, this is one of the biggest financial decisions that most people make in their life, and this is also one of the stepping stones into building wealth. And that's another reason I'm here. Not only am I experienced in land and home, I'm an experienced investor, and I started in real estate probably, let's see, I bought my first investment property when I was 22. So 2012 I bought my first investment property, and I didn't get my license till years later. I've been in real estate for over a decade now, and my clientele's about 98% referral, just from people that I know who trust me and send their friends to me. And so I grew up, my dad, he's an investor, and my dad would buy properties, and we would move. He'd buy a foreclosure property, and we would live in one room. And he's amazing. He would rehab the whole house by himself, and then as soon as the house was looking great, he'd buy another one, and we'd be living in another ran down house while he would rent that one. And he's built a portfolio now of, I think, over 40 properties, and a couple commercial buildings. And he's really the person that I learned all this from. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, you know what, maybe this is something I should be doing too. And that's kind of how I got into my real estate journey, is just seeing that and thinking, oh, I can make money doing this too, and I can help other people. That's why I got my license. I saw how much this changed my life, and the projection this is going to change my children's lives. Just the way that I have my business set up, is something that's going to benefit my family, hopefully for generations, if I can teach my children to do the things that my dad taught me. So yeah.
Well, and it's funny because, like some people grow up in military families, some people grow up in academia families, some people grow up in, restaurant families. You grew up in real, I mean, like Buddy, you grew up on a farming family, a ranching family, whatever. And she was seeing it from adolescence. She was watching it actually happen in front of her face. That's a lot of experience. That's a lot of life experience right there.
Yeah, thanks. And I had a great role model, and he just bought these houses to the point to where I was probably, I would say, 8 to 10. He finally bought our homestead, and that's where I grew up at. And we had horses and chickens and cows and four wheelers, and so he had his homestead base set up, and then he started going out and using those properties as leverage to purchase other properties through the bank, and just accelerate that investment and that return that he gets off of all of his properties, and built this empire, that if he didn't want to work, he could just sit back and retire, or he can just keep going out and he does multiple things. But having that as a mentor, I learned so much just by watching that.
Christina, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why do you do what you do?
I think she told us everything about herself.
Almost. Well, my family. I'm married. My husband is a combat veteran, and he's also in law enforcement. So we are very, pro America, pro law enforcement. We really try to support those things in our community. What I kind of call myself is I'm a work at home mom instead of a stay at home mom. I'm a work at home mom, and so not only do I run our brokerage, I have about 8 agents underneath me who practice independently. I'm not a team, but I do have other agents underneath me as a broker, and then I also homeschool my kids. I just feel like I have some beliefs on Oklahoma's 50th in education, and I'm just not happy with that. And with my values and stuff, I decided to move my kids to a homeschooling thing called Classical Conversation. It's a Christian-based type of homeschooling. We meet weekly, and it's kind of in the classical education system with grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And I'm trying to teach my kids to become independent and maybe one day become entrepreneurs and help me build this empire bigger, or go and find something that they enjoy, but something that can teach them just to be not just better people, but contribute to the society in a positive way.
So do you have a homestead now?
I do. Yeah, we have about 5 acres. And we have chickens and geese. I'm fencing off our property because I'd really like to get them a horse, and I'd like to get a couple cows. But yeah, we have a creek that runs through our property, and it's pretty secluded, and we're really lucky where we're at.
And you said you're running a fence. Are you doing that with like T-posts and barbed wire, or are you actually building an actual fence?
So the size of our property with our neighbors, our property is pretty long, and so it's more long than it is wide. And so on the size of my property, I share with the neighbors. It is barbed wire and T-posts. So on the back, I'll probably do the same. In the front, I'd like to have like something kind of nice and cute. That way, to bring up the market value of my house a little bit. Yeah, anything I do in my property, I try to think of how will this benefit not only myself, but if I ever decide to sell this one day, I just don't want to put money into something and not get a return. So I need to have a positive before I make a decision, because I'm very, very, how would I say, I'm very strict with how I spend my money.
And I have to say that her husband's awesome too. He's a very dangerous man. He's an awesome guy, man. He's one of my favorites there. Don't get to spend a lot of time with him, and it's been a couple of years, but I like to make that connection again.
I think to be successful in business, it always helps to have a spouse or a significant other that can really help you. They can help push you to become a better person. There's somebody you can bounce ideas off of. So when looking for a significant other, that was something that I really searched for hard. Somebody that loved God, and somebody that would be willing to, be my battle buddy whenever it came to whether it's faith, family, or working, in all areas of my life.
So let's say that I'm looking for a homestead, and I'm trying to go across state lines. Maybe a couple states over. I don't know anybody a couple states over, and especially realtors and stuff. How would I go about? But let's say it's Tennessee. I want to move to Tennessee. I don't know anybody there. How would I go about trying to find property there that I would be interested in?
Right. So you could call me. I have connections in almost every single state in the United States. The only 2 states I don't have connections is Alaska and Hawaii, but I just need to go there so I can visit. But you could reach out to me, and I could connect you with an agent, especially knowing you personally and your personality, your beliefs. It would be easier for me to find you somebody that way. But yeah, I could find you a referral partner down in that area that could take care of you, and I could already pre-vet them for you, make sure that they know these are the things you're looking for, and that way that you guys can connect.
The problem that I had with my real estate company, you might understand this because you said you have people working under you as a broker, is that the realtor was the realtor that I was using. So he was actually working for the seller.
Oh, okay.
But because it's a conflict of interest, he used one of his underlings or people that worked under him as our realtor. And I feel personally, I feel like behind the scenes, they were talking to each other and working it out the best way they can for themselves. Because I think that there are things that happened, I won't mention it, but there are things that happened in our process, our contract, and this and that. I feel my realtor could have fought more for us on. I really feel that's what happened, because we were very generous in making the deal work for both of us, the seller and us. And I still feel like they could have done more for us on that end. There was a couple times where I had to actually raise my voice to my realtor and be like, look, man, you work for me, you don't work for him. So stop making excuses for him and get on the phone and get him over there. I want this to happen.
Right.
It was kept constantly feeling like they were working together. To me, that's what it felt like.
Right. Yeah. In a lot of other states, dual agency is illegal. In the state of Oklahoma, we're allowed to, and we have to, explain to both parties. Like, I won't tell them your financial situation, vice versa. But you're trusting that person's word. And there's some really great people in Oklahoma who are real estate agents. But there are a few that they're just not great. And so that's
You
really,
do have to be careful.
you have
You
to be
do.
very careful because they're not supposed to. They're not supposed to. We're not supposed to share anybody's information. We're supposed to just
That's right.
be very
For instance, we actually bought we paid for the inspection of the house, and somehow the seller got a hold of it,
right.
and we didn't give it to them. They should pay for their own inspection. We didn't offer it to them, but they got it, and I believe they got it through our realtor. That's the only way they could have gotten it.
Right. So it's pretty common in Oklahoma when actually our contract's written in a way to where it says any inspections that have happened in the property that we'll share it with the seller. That's the contract for Oklahoma states that whenever we're going under contract on the house. And that's mainly due to, like, if we're wanting to ask for a few items to be repaired, say you're buying like a single family home in a neighborhood or just a home in general. And we do the inspections, we deliver inspections, and we're like, hey, these are the items we're wanting you to fix. And then we give them the full report, which really benefits you, especially if you're not asking for a lot of items. Because these home inspectors, they'll find a nail that's not in the roof correctly, that's popped up a little bit.
Oh yeah.
They're so good.
Yep.
They can find every single thing wrong with these houses. And those are the best inspectors to use. You want to make sure you get an agent that has some very, very strict inspectors that'll find everything wrong with the house, because if the seller won't fix it, you have a really good hit list to go off of if you want to continue moving forward with the house. And then speaking of inspections for a home versus, raw land where somebody's going to do a homestead. I mean, it's a vast difference in the type of inspections that you'll get, and we can get into that during this podcast whenever you guys want to. But yeah, it's pretty common to share that home inspection with the seller. It really benefits you more than what you would think.
Yeah, it seems like to me people want a homestead. They fall in love with the thought of homesteading and food from their own garden, raising animals and doing the things. Have you seen people that just get fixated on land or maybe just a house?
Oh yes, when showing houses, that's the wife loves the house and the husband's worried about the land or the shop, and somehow we have to get everybody to come together, make an agreement, because I've had many instances where the husband just loved the property. I mean, there was everything he wanted, but in the house, the kitchen was too small, or it's hard to find something that both people can agree on, especially once you get into the inspection period. When you first start and you can finally get something that both people are just fully in love with, you're like, all right, let's do inspections. And then you got to renegotiate, and you have to talk to your buyers and fill them out throughout the whole process. It's very emotional for a lot of people, and it's very, very stressful. People don't realize the amount of stress. I would say 70% of my clients get pretty stressed out when especially first time home buyers or somebody that's really making a big investment like a homestead. It's a very, very emotional process, and a lot of people aren't mentally prepared for it.
Well, it's personal.
Very personal.
I would just add into what you were just saying is make sure that your better half, the other person involved here, actually wants a homestead, actually wants to be a homesteader.
Yes.
That's a good point. I mean, if both parties don't buy into it, I mean, homesteads work.
It's a lot of
People
work.
don't realize it. They romanticize it, I guess.
I work from morning until night every day. And I do have my personal time. I make sure I get in there. But like minutes before I jumped on this, I was upstairs working on the dishwasher. I got it opened up, sitting upside down in the kitchen floor right now, working on it. And my alarm went off. I'm like, shit, I got to get down there to do the podcast. I mean, there's always work going on.
Yeah, I think that's something people miss. But
And when you guys are looking at, when our homesteaders are looking at places like land to purchase, there's so many things that we could get out of the way before you even purchase it, before you even make the financial decision to stick with this homestead. There's tons of inspections to do that'll make you feel better about your decision, or make you decide, oh my gosh, I'm so glad we did this. If I would have known, I would have never followed through with this loan. We would have walked and found something else. And a lot of raw land that doesn't have any homes or just no utilities whatsoever, right? There might be, say electric to it, but a lot of questions that a lot of buyers that I see with inexperienced agents, they don't ask, like, hey, is the seller selling this land with oil rights, or are there any covenants and restrictions on this property, which would be like, no mobile homes, or your house has to be this size. If you build a shop, it has to match the house. There's a plethora of crazy covenants and restrictions some people put on these properties whenever they sell, because they could be a neighbor and they'd not want the property to look a specific way. So they can put their thumb on you, and if you don't pay attention to your covenants and restrictions, if there is any on that land, that can really get to be annoying after a while. It's almost like being in an HOA without being in an HOA. A really good section of land, or a really good, how do I say this? You want to see if the land's in an unincorporated area, which is really mainly ran by the county. And so an unincorporated area, you might not have to have permits. People can't really tell you what to do with your property. You can, as a homesteader, you're going to want to go in there and do whatever you want to do, and you don't want your neighbors to be able to tell you how big certain things are. If you want to build a shop or a greenhouse, you don't want to have permission that you can put it in a very specific spot. That's never any fun. And then a few other things. You want to make sure it has water. So I mean, if you're going to do, you're going to want to have a well expert come out. So in Oklahoma, we have it's called the Oklahoma Water Resources Board. And as an agent, we already have that connection to the company. Most agents who do land have a connection with a well company. And what they do out is they can go online through the Oklahoma Water Resources Board and tell you all the wells in the area, the water wells in the area, how deep they had to drill, and they can give you a quote like, based on the wells in your area, this is how deep we would have to drill, this is how much it would cost you to put water on the property before you even buy it. So you would have an idea of a hit list of how much you need to have saved up to start your homestead. And the same thing with the septic. A septic company can come out and they do what's called as a soil profile. And they tell you if the soil is good or bad, what type of septic system you can put in. And when I was speaking with, there's a guy, he owns Vet Septic Service in Oklahoma City, and he was telling me that on large portions of land, so you can get an aerobic system, which is mainly in places that have really bad soil. But he was telling me anything over 40 acres, like a big section of land, most people would think of a lagoon as kind of disgusting. And he was telling me that lagoons work for over 75 years, are one of the least maintenance type of septics that you can get put on your property. And you would think, oh, a lagoon sounds kind of disgusting, it probably stinks. But he even said that with access to light and some water, he's like, you can't even tell that there's lagoons out there. Like if you go major highways like Love's, if you go to Love's where you stop and maybe you're dumping off your camper or something, a majority of them have lagoons there. They just look like ponds to us because we don't know that's a lagoon. So if the soil and everything's too bad and you don't want to spend money on an aerobic system, which can be very expensive, you can always put a lagoon. But he did tell me that he would only put a lagoon on like a big majority of land, 40 acres or more, because if it's on something smaller, most people are not educated about lagoons, so it just grosses them out and it turns them away from the property altogether if it's like a smaller section of land.
We learned about lagoons when we were doing our property search, and we actually looked at a couple of properties that had one. It automatically just turned my stomach thinking about it. I'm like, well, I got to go look at this. And I don't think they took care of it very well, because I could smell, I mean, it was pretty stinky when I got up to it.
Ew.
Yeah, and I think the light goes in and does its thing. That natural light will go in and kill a lot of those bacteria and stuff. Now, I was involved in a property for a while in Texas, East Texas, and it had a lagoon, and you just couldn't keep the dogs out of it. They thought it was a pond.
Ew.
Nasty.
Dogs would want to come inside and cuddle up to you and stuff, and it was a thing. So yeah, there's pros and cons of a lagoon for sure.
Yeah, and then if you're purchasing a home in a neighborhood, it's so much easier. Standard home inspection, you get a trusted home inspector. He comes in, he gives you a hit list of all the major units or HVAC. I mean, they do everything. They go on top of the roof. I would recommend having licensed roofers show up the same day, and especially in Oklahoma, have a foundation person come out. Other states, you probably won't need it, but in Oklahoma we rattle a lot down here, and so a foundation inspection is very important, and it's free. So that's whatever you can get in the documentation on the house before you present your request to the seller. It helps you out so much, because not only if you can't come to an agreement with the seller, now that seller has to disclose all that information to the next buyer that comes in and tries to purchase the property. So it's such a strong thing for you to use when you're negotiating, because not only can you say, hey, can you fix these items? You could also say, hey, instead of fixing these items, how about we knock down the purchase price? I mean, there's so many things that you can negotiate at that point in your contract that would benefit you.
So about a year ago, I noticed that there was a law change nationwide on whether, I guess, who's going to pay the
Oh, the
fees,
commission.
commission fees, and it looked like the realtors got screwed in that whole transaction. So, what was up with that?
Well, it started out. It started out mainly, I feel, due to some agents not properly disclosing how their listing agreement works with their sellers. So, from my understanding, um, agents got sued because the seller originally did not know that they were paying for both agents. So originally, last year, before this law changed, I would come to you and say, hey, buddy, I'm going to list your house. I want 6%. And I always articulate to the seller that I'm splitting my commission with the other agent. So I'm taking 3% and the other agent's taking 3%. I'm just using 6% as an example. Like, that's not a set rate throughout the United States. It's just common in our area. So I would take 3%, the other agent would take 3%. But when it came down to the closing table, whenever the sellers seen the Alta settlement statement, which is like your final numbers for closing, they would notice that the other agent's commissions coming out of their net proceeds. And they're like, what? We didn't know that. And either the agent didn't articulate it correctly, or the sellers didn't read their contract correctly. Either way, the Department of Justice and the people who were suing agents won. And so they split it up to where now, if I want to ask, I'm representing you as your buyer's agent, and this other agent has it listed, that listing agent only negotiates their commission directly with the seller. So if I'm listing your house, Keith, I would say, hey, on my end, I charge 3% of the purchase price. And then when the buyer's agent comes in with their offer, they're going to submit a compensation agreement. So they could request whatever compensation they want to represent that buyer. It's common in Oklahoma for 3%. But they would come in with their buyer's offer and say, hey, this is what I'm requesting that you pay me for representing them, because buyers do spend tons of money before they even purchase the house. Home inspections can easily get over $1,000 to $2,000, depending on if there's a well and septic, and if there's a pool, and how big the house is, and the land, and there's so many different things that come out of their pockets while they're trying to purchase a home. So having a good agent in your corner that can fight and say, hey, we're willing to offer you this, but could you also pay my commission? How about closing costs from my buyer? If you can pre-negotiate a couple things in the contract, that also helps. Many times whenever I'm sending in my buyer's offer, there's a special provisions that we can put in, and I always try to put in there, if any wood destroying organisms are found, that the seller will do a full barrier treatment of the home at no cost to the buyer. And so now I've already negotiated in termite treatment before we even done the inspection. And if the seller agrees to it, then he's already agreed to fixing that if that becomes a problem.
It's very complicated. You need to have a realtor, because we got our contract specifically, and it said that there's no termites found. When we moved in, I found termites. Now, they weren't near the house; they were out behind my shop, but there were termites, a lot of them, and I had to fix that because I didn't know enough up front to look at that, to actually pay more money to the inspector for different types of things, because inspections you can a la carte
Mm-hmm.
them. For the more money you want to spend, you may want to spend a little bit less. You need to have a realtor. It's very important. Do not do this on your own if you can help it.
Exactly. Another thing that a lot of people kind of overlook, depending on the type of loan they have, like a VA loan and FHA loan, they're very strict on this specific rule. But say that the property you're purchasing has a well, your inspector is gonna want to inspect the water. So they're gonna want to have the water tested. They send it off. It comes back, and it tells you what kind of bacteria is in it, or if there's any bacteria in it that's harmful. And on a FHA and a VA loan, if it comes back positive for any type of bacteria, then the seller has to fix that per your loan. That's like a non-negotiable item. If that doesn't get fixed, your lender won't let you close. It's not very expensive to fix, but it is something that's important because a lot of people, if you're buying cash or conventional and you decide, hey, that's not that big of a deal. Anybody that's pregnant that drinks that, or young children or elderly people, they could die from drinking water that's got a little bit of bacteria in it. So it's super important to make sure that you have an agent on your side that explains these things to you, because if your loan doesn't pass because the seller won't fix the water, then you're going to be out all that money just to do that, for it to not work out.
One of the questions I have is if somebody wants to start this process, what is the first steps in the process? And then my second question would be, and I ask all the, pretty much everybody that comes on, what is your everyday carry? I want you to purse dump.
That has nothing to do with real estate, but go ahead.
Okay, so to answer your first question, I would say reach out to your local real estate agent that you trust. Somebody, whether if you don't know somebody, ask somebody. Somebody knows a good agent, or look up reviews. That's the most important thing, because they're going to connect you with a lender who works well with them. You want a team that enjoys working together. You don't want two separate people that are clashing. So a lot of agents have a lender that they work very well with, and things go much more smoothly if you're working with somebody that you like. And then to answer your second question, I carry a Glock 36.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay. I carry the Glock 26, a little small, but
That's cute. I like it.
it's cute. I'm a big guy, so it fits on me concealed very nicely. I used to have a full size, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. As a real estate agent, we have to be very careful. We meet a lot of people that we don't know, and so it's very good to stay strapped just in case somebody needs to get clapped. You know what I'm saying?
That's good. I like that. Do you have? We're going to put your contact information in the show notes for everybody to look at, and it doesn't make a difference what state you live in. You can give Christina a call or an email or something and ask her questions and see if she can help you out in whatever area you need. Is there any kind of a link that you want to, or anything you want to promote before we jump off?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Christina Bowers, Bowers Realty Group broker. If you just Google Bowers Realty Group, OKC, my contact information is on there. I am also on Instagram. I'll send you the link that you can put in the comments if anybody wants to directly contact me. My email is Christina@BowersRealtyGroupOKC.com, but we'll also have them put that in the comments.
Yeah, and look, we want to get you back on for more of this because there's so much more we need to touch on, and this is a really big topic for prepper survivalists, homesteaders. But I also want to probably maybe get you on to talk about homesteading since you're involved in that. So
I would love to.
Be great, yeah. Christina, thank you so much. You've been great. I know you were a little bit nervous in the beginning, but you had no reason to. You knocked it out of the park.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I look forward to coming on again.
My prepper brothers and sisters, choosing the right land to purchase for your bug out location and homestead is a big deal. The very ground you stand on becomes the foundation of your security, your productivity, and your future. But it's also the place where dreams take shape, where a lifestyle of stability, independence, and purpose can truly begin. A heartfelt thank you to Christina Bowers for sharing her guidance and helping us see what's possible when we approach real estate with clarity and intention. Her insights remind us that a good piece of land isn't just dirt, it's potential. It's a chance to create something lasting and generational. If you're thinking about making that move towards self-reliance, remember, every great homestead starts with one decision, one step, 1 acre. With the right preparation and the right mindset, the future you're working toward is absolutely within reach. Stay prepped, stay happy. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Rivers winding round words in my head. Shivering pines say that summer is dead. Chest feels hollow and my hands are numb. Do my best to swallow all the things I've done. You break your back, but you still don't have bread. You won't go back on the things that you said. You bleed your heart out, and it takes every drop. You've come too far now to ever stop. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking to dead man pass. You can't trust a man 'cause he'll just let you down. Crooked and twisted, we grow from the ground. From dust we came in, dust we shall return. From dust we came in, dust we shall return. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking through dead man paths. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking through dead man paths. Wash me in the water and I'll never go back, even when I'm walking through